everyone, my name is Cara and I'm 12 years old. I'm from Ardfinnan in County Tipperary and I live there with my family. I live there with my mammy, my daddy and my two brothers Neil and John. Unfortunately, they are both severely autistic. Neil got diagnosed by the HSE at 3 3/4 years of age. He never got the proper services that he deserved and he never got early intervention either. A result of that is that he hits and bites himself every single day and he commits violence to himself all of the time, and it is really, really sad that my mum and dad and me and my whole family have to see that. Meanwhile, John got diagnosed privately at 1 3/4 years of age. He got early intervention and there is not as much damage done as what was with Neil. And Mammy and Daddy also got him private services, so he's done a lot better than Neil too. For example, he has a bit of comprehension, he can understand what Mammy and Daddy and me say to him, and he also is toilet trained as well. I can see the clear difference between getting early intervention and not getting it. When you do not get early intervention, there is permanent damage done. And when you do get early intervention, that permanent damage is not done. And this is my message to the government and the HSE. Stop saying early intervention because it does not exist unless you pay privately for it. And you should not have to pay extra money for private services that you should already be entitled to. And on top of all of this information, I also found out that there are thousands and thousands of families all around the country in every county, just like our family. And in fact, 18,000 children, like my two brothers, who are left to rot on a HSE waiting list. This is just plain wrong. It makes me feel really sad and very angry. So I decided that I was going to do something about it. So last year, I decided that I was going to fundraise for Ardfinnan National School and Scoil Special School, and also raise awareness about the lack of therapy services issue, and also to stand up for those children with autism and disabilities. In September 2021, my dad was in the kitchen reading his newspaper, and I came into him and I told him that I had a brilliant idea, and he was expecting me to say I cut the lawn for him or something. But I told him that I was going to sit the Junior Cert Maths exam for charity. And he was so shocked he nearly fell off the stool and I had to do CPR on him. But, wait for it, the funniest part is when he started to recover from his shock, I then told him that he will be teaching me for this impossible task. Then he really died. So, I ended up sitting the exam in June and, wait for it, I raised €40,000. And I studied over 400 extra hours for the exam in total, which is about 70 extra school days for the exam. And last Friday night on the Late Late Show, I got my results in the show, and I got 97%. I also raised awareness of the lack of therapy services issues. I met many politicians, including Taoiseach Leo Varadkar, Mary Lou MacDonald, and Minister Anne Rabbitte, and many more. But on the 28th of July, I finally met the Taoiseach in his office for 80 minutes. He was one of the nicest people that I've ever met. And I told him that he must now treat us like the house is on fire, and that he is the parent and the HSE is the child, and that he was basically guilty of not parenting the child. And he told me that he promised me a lot of changes. But I told him that if change is not done, that I used the life of a Terminator, that I'll be back if change is not done. So, we're now in the middle of November. What has changed? Nothing. There are 18,000 children left to rot on a HSE waiting list. It is so wrong, and he has done nothing about it. So, I told them that if there's no change done, that I'll be back. So everybody, today, I am back. 2 weeks ago, I was the first child and the youngest person to ever give evidence to an Oireachtas committee. It was very serious, and they listened to my message and they took it wicked seriously. But however, I added in at the end that they'll probably say something that day to me like, I hope you have a nice weekend. I won't! When I go home, I'm going to have to see my brother hitting and biting himself and committing violence to himself. And it is so wrong. And my family will have to see it as well. And it is disgraceful. So, what will I do now? while only 12 years old and in 6th class, I'm going to become the first national school child in the history of Ireland to attempt to sit the Leaving Cert Maths exam for charity. And I'm doing it for those 18,000 children and also to stand up for children with autism and disabilities. And many people have told me that it is impossible and that I won't do it. But this is my message to them. I'm possible. My message is very simple. End disability discrimination. No more talk, only action needed. Politicians are all talk and no action, and that must change right now. But this speech is called If I Was Taoiseach for a Day. So, if I was Taoiseach for a day, this is what I would do. Or, more importantly, what I want Micheál Martin to do today. So here are the 3 things that I want to be changed and what I want to do. Number 1, end parents paying privately for services that they should already be entitled to. The HSE should be paying for these services, but they're making parents pay for them, like my mum and my dad. And it is so wrong. Number 2, make the HSE accountable for its lack of action on this issue. The HSE are not accountable right now, and that must change. Sure, when someone complains against them that there's not enough services, they investigate it themselves. That is not being accountable, and they must change their attitudes right now. And number 3, and last of all, to treat carers properly. Carers are being treated disgracefully right now. Carers work so hard. Carers work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and they don't get treated good at all. The carers need to be treated with respect, and they need to be treated better because they are being treated absolutely disgracefully by the HSE and politicians. Last Friday night on the Late Late Show, I said 4 times live in the show that it was a national disgrace what is going on. So I'm going to say it again today. The HSE and politicians and the government are a national disgrace, and they need to do something about this right now. And I am calling to end disability discrimination. Let me be clear. Cara Darmody will not stop until change occurs. Thank you all for listening to my speech.